Hey everybody, it's me, of course, it's Brad. Those of you who've seen my videos know that I work on cars. What the hell is this? Yes, it's a bit of a departure from my usual. Usually I talk about my clarity, of course, so thank you for all of that, folks. Those of you who've seen the channel might also notice that I worked on my S2000, so that's cool, that car's out and running and fantastic. So what the hell is this thing? This is a 1990 Volkswagen Cabriolet Canadian edition. Probably the only pink one, let's hope anyway. And as you can see, it's up on jack stands because the damn thing doesn't run. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to walk through my process of showing how I would discover what's wrong with it. And hopefully, along the way, I'm actually going to fix the damn thing. So if that's something you're interested in, please stick around. And as always, please click that like button if you think I'm hilarious, and subscribe would be fantastic. Thanks so much. Okay, so first thing that I would do is, of course, the very basics, which make sure the thing has fuel in it. This thing does have some. It's been pretty ratty, but I did put some fresh fuel in it. Plus, I have a handy bottle of liquid fire. It's like ether, it's starting fluid, so you can spray that in as well. So we'll get to the fuel in a minute, but right now the first thing you want to do is obviously make sure your battery is half decent. This one came with the car. I threw my charger on it. It actually seems to be holding a charge, so that's obviously step one. I've even put it in together correctly, well, imagine that. And then from there, I'm going to start with the easy things, like to check the coil for spark, because that's obvious, and then obviously check that I have spark at the spark plugs. But along the way, especially on a car like this, it's a really good idea to clean up your battery posts and your grounds, which I did. So I just went to your local hardware store and I bought battery posts, and then you can see I've actually cleaned up the cables because the cables look nice and clean there. So that's a huge thing. Again, presuming you don't have spark. If you have a decent battery and you're getting spark, you can kind of at least put the ground thing away for now. So let's get to that too here. Hang on a sec. So in this car, it's got a good old-fashioned coil like this. So your coil lead obviously comes all the way to the top of your distributor. I've already pulled it off because even though I'm kind of working backwards, I want to verify all these parts as I go. So I'm going to have my lovely assistant crank the car in about 2 seconds here, but I'm really just taking this, holding it so I don't get shocked too much, and I'm going to ground it against the block so you can see the spark. Okay, go ahead, please. That's good, thanks. So that has lots of sparks. You know you're good for there. So again, that's pretty easy, and notice I didn't get the shock to hell. So now I want to go to pick any of these plug wires and see if there's any spark into them. Now, of course, there'll be one spark for every fire out of the coil, and then every fourth spark, obviously, because this is a 4-cylinder. So I'm going to grab kind of a random one. I did check this one, there's spark there, but obviously since I'm here, I'll do the other one. So I just have to put you down and reposition the camera while I do that. So, as I said, I now have just any random spark plug wire out of here. Now, this is probably going to shock me, but you just grab a screwdriver. Here we go. Any screwdriver that's got a plastic handle. Obviously, the more insulation, the better. And you just make sure that the screwdriver's in all the way, that it's actually touching the electrode there. And then I'm just going to ground it again to any part of here. So, in about 1 second, my lovely assistant will crank the motor over, and you'll be able to see if there's any spark, as long as I'm out of the way, which I'm going to do this. Okay, go ahead, please. Oh, it's firing. Go ahead, please. Okay, if you can make that out, that's good, thank you. You can see that there's actually just a slight spark, and actually, that was a misfire, so or a backfire, because it actually smells like fuel, or exhaust. So we've got spark there too. So we're getting there. So the simple thing you can take from here is at least the componentry is decent. Now, what you can't tell is if the distributor is timed correctly, which means obviously that the spark plugs are firing at the point where they should, i.e. close to top dead center, depending on where your timing is. So that's the other thing we're going to check after we check the fuel. So I'll put you down once more and we'll check that. So the first thing you do on one of these motors is to check that there's any fuel actually getting from the fuel tank is, instead of starting at the back, that's a big pain in the butt, you can actually undo this hose here. This is your fuel pressure regulator, so it makes sure that obviously that the fuel across the rail is balanced. And if you undo this and you crank the motor over, fuel should come spewing out of there. I recommend you put a hose on there and then a container, but to save the mess, I actually did that yesterday and there was a ton of fuel coming out. So I verified that we have fuel from the tank all the way through both fuel pumps, because this car happens to have 2, all the way up to the fuel pressure regulator. So there's one other thing we can check, which I haven't done yet, which I'm going to do now to make sure that there's fuel is getting across the fuel rail. So hang on 1 sec and we'll get right back. Hi folks, we're back under here. So all I've done here is I just simply undid the band and pulled this thing out. It does pull out this hose from, which is actually the idle control valve or whatever it's called. Obviously a lot of fuel injected cars have an idle control setup as well as an obviously main throttle setup. This thing actually, if you don't know, has a full throttle enrichment switch, which I didn't know what this was until I had to look it up, but that's interesting too. It also has has a small and a large choke there, or throttle plate rather, which I also found interesting because this thing is only a 1.8. I guess they do that so you can get a little extra juice. So anyway, on to what we're trying to do here. I'm going to put my light down here. This, as I said, or as I was alluding to, is where you measure the fuel across the rail above the fuel injectors, and this is where you can put a fuel pressure gauge if you wanted. If you're building a motor and you had to be absolutely sure you had fuel pressure, you'd want to have something there. What I did is I simply just cracked the end of that, and already it was dripping on me, so I'm not going to do it again. Excuse me, because I don't want to get this place already smells enough like fuel, and so do I, so we'll do that. So anyway, what I've done here to summarize is I've verified we have spark at the distributor at each spark plug. I've verified we have fuel across the fuel rail, and now I'm going to put this together and we're going to try cranking it and see what we get. So hang on for that, we'll be 1 second away. Okay, so as verified, I got fuel and I got spark, but when I crank the damn thing, it doesn't fire. So I'm curious as to why that is. I have played around with the timing on the distributor, obviously, by swinging it rather wildly from one to the next, just hoping I can get something to go. And lo and behold, I actually got one cylinder to seem like to fire, not enough to sustain the car, but I got it to go. So instead of just randomly choosing where I'm going to time the car, I'm going to try to figure out how to set the static timing. Now this car, unfortunately, over here has no back mark, nor have I found any timing mark on this, the camshaft sprocket, so makes things a bit of a problem. If any of you have any ideas, I'm all ears, by the way, nor is there a mark on this side, which apparently there are on the Mark IIs. So I figured out where TDC is on the distributor, at least I hope that's the case. So now the option is I'm going to put a wood dowel down the spark plug hole of number 1 cylinder and see if I can indicate or see if I can get that thing up to TDC, and then at least I can have an eyeball from there, and then I can actually move the distributor where it makes sense. So wish me luck. We'll see how this goes. This magical piece of wood that I have in my hand, a dowel, is actually really effective for determining how low or where that piston is. So if you can see, focus, come on baby, there we go. Oh, I'm right in the way of the light, but it really only goes down, like, you can see the dirt there, like it's 1.5 inches. So that piston is pretty damn close to top dead center. So, which is interesting to me, because now we move over to the distributor, which if you can see, this distributor was a pain in my butt because there was no TDC mark on the distributor itself, but it appears to be on the plastic cover because the dust cover has a little slot in it right here. Sorry, where is it? Where is it? There it is. And now, of course, that can move a lot, but if you put that in there, there's actually a mark under here. Let's see if I'll turn the distributor, you can see it. Where is it there? Where did I put it? Anyway, trust me, it's there. The camera's not doing a very good job here. So I lined that up, but it really looks like it can't fit because then the hall sensor wires are really pulled over. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to line it up. Yeah, actually you can see it right there. Of course it moves around, which is bad news, so you got to make sure it's in. But you can see, here I'll pull it out, bad video. You can see that there, that's the slot that seems to move around as long as this thing sits in, right there. Now you can tell where it is, it's under there. I'm going to set it for static timing. Now that's 0, so I'm going to try to guesstimate 6 degrees BDC, BTDC, whatever that is, and see if it'll actually fire. So I think I was way off, clearly because I was putting it, I was actually advancing it way too far. So that's as close as I can get to kind of quote-unquote static timing this because I'm missing all of the really helpful timing marks, but we'll see. And before you say that, the hole back here, where you can actually see the flywheel, doesn't work either because I can't get the wheel off this car, and that's a whole other story. So let me put this back together and we'll see if we can actually get the darn thing to fire at least once. Okay, I got everything back together. Now, of course, as always, when you put a spark plug in, make sure that you torque it appropriately. I have a really good idea because I've obviously taken these in and out a few times, and I've done thousands of spark plugs probably in my lifetime, hundreds at least. So I'm confident that's in. It's clearly in the right one. The distributor's back on. I think it's pretty much static timed. I actually left it right at 0. So I'm going to back it down a little bit as we crank it just to see if it'll actually go. So, but one other quick point, don't ask me how I know, but make sure if and when you put the distributor back in, it is possible on these ones for you to put them in exactly 180 degrees out of phase, 180 degrees that is. I worked on other cars. I had an old MG where it was physically impossible because the pin on the distributor was actually offset, but this one's not. So please be careful when you're putting that in as well. Otherwise it's a pain in your ass. Don't ask me how I know. All right, please crank it. Keep going. Okay, that's good. All right, so that's not working. So I've left the bolt holding the distributor down a little loose so I can turn it. Okay, try again, please. Come on, baby. A little more. Oh, whoa, what was that? That sounded exciting. Try it again, please. Whoa, look at that. Okay, that's good. So, all right, I have no idea where the timing is on that because I think I've moved that a good, that's got to be 15 degrees. So clearly I'm wrong on the static timing, but you know, I do have well actually I don't have a timing gun anymore, but once I at least get this darn thing running, then I'll worry about setting all that up because it will need a timing belt as well. So I am optimistic now, so I'm going to put you guys down and I'm going to crank the fuck out of this thing, forgive me for saying so, and see if we can get it going. So you'll either see me shortly with a big smile on my face, or there'll be another video on how do I do this, and if anyone knows better, please let me know as well. All right, catch you guys in a little bit. All right, well, progress, but not exactly as far as I was hoping for. So this is where we are right now. If you could, please. Oh, look at that. That's almost there. I think we're going to keep trying. All right, so no, we didn't get it started, but we came really close. So I'm going to leave it for now. Battery is still, if you have a charger, keep the battery on the charger because we're clearly giving it a good run for its money. As I said before, we verified spark from the coil, spark from each of the spark plugs, or 2 out of 4, so that's fair to say. We verified fuel at the beginning of the fuel rail off the what did I call that? Fuel pressure balancer thingy. Forgive me for forgetting that. Regulator, fuel pressure regulator. So there's fuel out there, and then at the other side here, where I showed you, I can't quite see. Oh, there it is. At the other side of the fuel rail, we have fuel as well. So there's fuel all the way across there. So the fuel, like I said, that's been in this tank is, you know, probably pretty gummed up. It's been at least 18 months since it's ran. So I put 2 jerry cans full of good fuel in, and it seems to be making some progress. Yes, with the ether spraying it in, it should have gone because that clearly bypasses the fuel, but I don't really know why, and right now I'm kind of out of ideas. So this timing though is whack. I really wish I could find the proper timing marks because it's all over the place from where I thought it was to where it is now. You can see how much I've stretched the cable. I even had to pull it out of the little receiver there to make it reach. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to let that fuel soak. Hopefully it'll kind of mix in and soften up some of the gunk if there's in there. I'm going to investigate more overnight here on how to time this thing properly, if there's some other tricks. And then, failing all of that, I'm going to kind of leave the timing where it is, and then I'm going to start pulling the injectors out, because if that's the problem too. Again, we got everything else kind of sorted, so I think that's what our next steps are. So anyway, it's been great, folks. Here, let's turn this around. Okay, try that again. Anyway, so that's where we are, folks. Thanks for sticking around. If you have any wisdom to share, please, I'm all ears. Please comment below. That'd be fantastic. And anyway, if other than that, stay tuned for when I can actually get this damn thing running. And the first thing I will do is let all of you know how I did that so that you can benefit from my trial and error here. Anyway, hope you're all doing great. See you in the next video.